How did Paris become the center of fashion? Parisian fashion history blends into myth and legend. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, designers like Charles Frederick Worth and Paul Poiret began showcasing their garments in dynamic, social settings. Poiret, known for his opulent designs, famously hosted lavish balls, including the 1911 1002nd Night Party, where attendees dressed in lampshade dresses and harem trousers. By the 1920s and 1930s, fashion shows became smaller, exclusive events hosted by renowned names like Coco Chanel, Elsa Schiaparelli, and Madeleine Vionnet. These intimate presentations were closely guarded, with photographers banned to prevent design copying, a far cry from today's highly publicized shows. After World War II, Paris's fashion shows became more regulated. In 1945, the Chambre syndicale de la haute couture required couture houses to present at least 35 seasonal pieces. At the time, Paris faced competition from New York's growing fashion scene, especially after the first press week in 1943. However, Paris had a game-changer: Christian Dior. In 1947, Dior's debut collection, Corole, later dubbed the New Look, reset the fashion landscape. Featuring voluminous skirts and cinched waists, it was a stark departure from wartime pragmatism and marked a return to femininity. The collection was a sensation, drawing huge crowds and allowing photography, a rarity for the time. Dior, alongside designers like Givenchy, Balmain, and Fath, reasserted Paris's fashion dominance, thrilling the audience and revitalizing the city's sartorial influence. In the 1960s, Yves Saint Laurent, who trained at Dior, rose to prominence. He began his career in 1955 as an assistant to Christian Dior, becoming the head designer after Dior's death in 1957. His debut collection at Dior in 1958 was a success, but he was dismissed in 1960. In 1961, Saint Laurent launched his own fashion house, quickly gaining fame for innovative designs like the tuxedo suit for women, Le Smoking, and his Mondrian dresses. By the late 1960s, he had revolutionized ready-to-wear fashion, embracing youth culture and modern styles. This shift reflected the influence of youth culture echoed in the futuristic designs of Pierre Cardin and André Courrèges, as ready-to-wear became the new direction in fashion. The first official Paris Fashion Week debuted in 1973 with the iconic Battle of Versailles fashion show, marking a historic clash between Parisian and American fashion. The event, a fundraiser for the restoration of the Palace of Versailles, featured 5 major French designers: Yves Saint Laurent, Emmanuel Ungaro, Christian Dior, under Marc Bohan, Pierre Cardin, and Hubert de Givenchy, versus 5 relatively unknown American designers: Anne Klein, Halston, Oscar de la Renta, Bill Blass, and Stephen Burrows. While the French brought theatrical flair, including rhino-led caravans and pumpkin coaches, it was the Americans who stole the show with their fresh designs. Predominantly African-American model lineup and Liza Minnelli's appearance. From the mid-1980s onward, fashion shows grew more daring. Thierry Mugler's 1984 show at Le Zénith Stadium wowed 6,000 attendees, while Jean-Paul Gaultier's iconic conical bra, famously worn by Madonna in her 1990 Blonde Ambition tour, made headlines. Karl Lagerfeld's revival of Chanel in the 1980s created unforgettable moments, and Japanese designers like Yohji Yamamoto and Comme des Garçons brought revolutionary ideas to Paris. In the 1990s, British designers like John Galliano at Dior and Alexander McQueen at Givenchy left their mark. More recently, in 2019, Stella McCartney partnered with LVMH to push sustainable high fashion forward. Today, Paris Fashion Week is more dramatic than ever, with brands creating elaborate custom-built sets. From train stations and airports to supermarkets and merry-go-rounds, these ambitious backdrops often came from the late Karl Lagerfeld's time at Chanel, each show aiming to outdo the previous one. Other brands like Louis Vuitton, Balenciaga, and Rick Owens have embraced theatricality, with Owens even featuring human backpacks in his SS-16 show. While Paris has evolved since Poiret's lavish dances over a century ago, its signature drama remains unmatched in the fashion world.